All right, so this is a problem where we're going to have to change our order a little bit. We can't just straight go to the table because if you notice, this is a trinomial. So we're going to need to do some math. We're going to need to find our vertex before we do anything else. So if you remember from the other work, our vertex is x is equal to negative b over 2a. So in this problem, I have my b value is that 5, so I have negative 5 over 2 times 3. So my x value is negative 5 over 6. All right. Now, that is going to be my vertex. So I'm going to make my chart. I'm going to have my x, my equation, and my y. So I know I'm going to have negative 5 over 6 in here in the middle. Now, I'm going to pick two values that are lower than negative 5, 6, or going in that direction. So for me, I'm going to pick negative 1 and negative 2, because I like to pick, I don't need to pick any more fractions, but I'm going to have to for the vertex. And then I'm going to pick 0 and positive 1. Now, here's where it's not completely symmetrical, because the difference between negative 5, 6, and negative 1 is not the same as negative 5, 6, and 0. But that's okay. So we're going to plug this stuff in. So when I do that, I get 3, and I have a negative 2 squared plus 5 times negative 2 plus 6. So I've got to do this stuff just like we did before. So negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And then adding 6 to that. So that gives me 6. So I'm going to do this every single time. So 3 times negative 1 squared plus 5 times negative 1 plus 6. Again, negative 1 squared is 1, so times 3 is 3. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Add 6 to that, and get 4. Yes, we have to deal with the fraction. You may end up getting a decimal, and that's fine and dandy. So we just have to cruise through this. So this one's definitely calculator heavy. So I'm going to just start plugging things in exactly how I see them in my calculator. Because that's the joy about these calculators, is that they will do the entire problem for you as long as you type it in correctly. Now, my calculator did give me a decimal, and it's 3.92. Okay? When I plug in 0, oh, now I'm happy. 0 makes it pretty. We always love 0 when we get them in the problem, so that answer is just 6. And then plug in 1, which will look somewhat similar, but not exactly to the negative 1. So, because here you got 3 plus 5 plus 6, and you get 14. So in this one, if you notice, unlike the other problems, these are not exactly symmetrical, you know, because again, the difference between those is different. All right, so now I'm going to start plotting these points, and I'm going to start with my vertex, which if you remember, my vertex was a negative 5, 6. Well, negative 5, 6 is almost negative 1, but not completely there. And it was at 3.92. So my vertex is like right here. And then when I went to 0, it was at 6. And then 1 was up here at 14. I'm just going to put a dot there. And then negative 2, or negative 1, was at 4. So it was like barely there. And then negative 2 was also at 6. So when I actually graph this, horrible job on my graphing. Looks horrible, but that's what it looks like. So I know my vertex because I found that algebraically first. Okay? And I'm not going to worry about the axis of symmetry, though. If I would put it in, would go right there. And it would be an ugly equation because it would be x equals negative 5 over 6 for my axis of symmetry. All right, so now again, we've got to do vertex first because we have this trinomial. So my vertex formula, I start out with x equals negative b over 2a. So in this form, negative 8, because my 8 is b, 2 times negative 4. Ooh, this one turned out pretty. Negative 8 over negative 8. So my x value is simply 1. So I'm going to make my chart. I'll have my workspace. So I got a 1, and I'm going to pick 0 and -1, and 2 and 3. So again, I'm always picking 2 that are less than, 2 that are greater than. So I'm going to plug these in. It's not so bad. So -4 times -1 squared plus 8 times -1 minus 3. I'm going to do all my math. 0 squared plus 8 times 0 minus 3. -4 times 1 squared plus 8 times 1 minus 3. -4 times 2 squared plus 8 times 2 minus 3. -4 times 3 squared plus 8 times 3 minus 3. So now I'm going to do the math. Well, -1 squared is 1. So then I have -4 minus 8 minus 3, -15. This gives me -3 because 0 cancel out. So then I have -4 plus 8 minus 3 gives me a 1. So my vertex is 1, 1. And then I have 2 squared is 4. So I have -16 plus 16 minus 3. Love the symmetry. Love it. And then I have 9 times -4, which is -36, plus 24, minus 3, -15. Love it when that works that pretty. All right, so now we're going to actually graph it. Well, my vertex was at 1, 1. So my vertex is right here. Then I had a 0, -3. And I had a 1. No, I had a 2, -3. Sorry. And then I have a -1 way down here. And I had 3 way down here. And I know I'm not doing a good job because I'm running out of space. So then you're just going to simply do the best you can. Try not to make it look like a V. I know this one is bad. Draw it. Now this one, if you remember what the equation was, the equation had a -a, so that's why it's going downward. Which is why you've got to pay attention and do the chart, because then it's so much easier to make sure it's going in the right direction when you do the math. All right? So, good deal.